Welcome to the 360 Degrees SCD Hub live broadcast show and interactive community chat. This show is designed to do three things. 1. Empower those living with sickle cell disease. 2. Educate the medical community to improve overall care. And 3. Encourage the general public to learn more and how to support this community affected by this disease by downloading our app and joining our community platforms. Whether you are living with sickle cell disease, part of the medical community, or the general public, our goal is to connect and unify everybody to improve care for all. This show is co-hosted by the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona and the Force for Health Network. Each month will feature special guests from our partner organizations and will include an interactive way for participants and viewers to interact with us. We encourage you lend your comments on our live streams and to download our free 360-degree SCD Hub app through the QR links below or by visiting our website at 360scdhub.org and join today. Together, we can make a difference for the entire SCD community. Now, let meet today's co-hosts from the Sickle Cell Foundation and the Force for Health Network.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of Monthly Insights, brought to you by the 360 SCD Hub, which is owned and operated and managed by the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona, and we are here to co-host it as the Force for Health Network. My name is Lucy Howell, and I am joined here by my partner, Dr. Robert Gilio, and our fearless leader, the Executive Director of the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona, Mr. Moses Akpan. Welcome, you guys. How's it going?
It's a good day here. The blood is flowing, the oxygen is good, and the muscles and mind are working. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Moses and I will not brag to you, but I kind of sort of will, because it's finally the temperature where we can actually get out and move on a midday walk. So you know how we always say to learn it and to live it and to share it? I've been so busy learning it and sharing it that I have been very bad about living it. So today is my day 1 of a day 30 streak challenge to walk every single day and to share it. So it was 65 degrees. So Moses, I cannot believe that it is November already, and it's November 18th, 19th. We got Thanksgiving coming up around here. I know there's a lot of things kind of top of mind. We've got some special guests coming up. In fact, we're going to be joined by Dr. Yvette Miller in a little bit. Hopefully, if technology comes through, and then we also will be getting joined by a family man living with sickle cell, the trait, and with 4 sons, a disabled vet, so that we can talk about what some of the things are top of mind for those living with sickle cell. But before we kind of bring our guests up to the stage, how would you like to open November highlights issue on behalf of the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona?
Hello, everyone. Hello to the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona. Hello, welcome to our November Insights. It's always exciting. Like Lucy says, time flies when you're having fun. Don't even know it's November. You just keep moving from day to day. So it's a great day to be alive, and I'm so excited for this day. So let's keep the event going. Let's keep the spirit going. It's wonderful to see Dr. Gilio also.
Well, let me add my brief thoughts. It's one thing to build an app. It's another thing to talk to the people that are using it. And that's the most important. I'm looking to hear feedback on how is life with sickle cell? How is the app helping? What's missing? What can we do better? What's really working? And I have to apologize, Lucy. I made a mistake yesterday. I was in my 4th day of a 4-day streak of walking, and I overdid it. So today I didn't do a darn thing. I just could barely move. So sometimes when you get too enthusiastic out there, you can overdo it. But don't get down on yourself. I'm going to rest for a day or two and get over my little crisis. It's more psychological and more hip pain. It's not a sickle crisis. I've never had that experience. Perhaps our guests could teach me a little bit more about what that is like.
Moses, when I was talking to you earlier, you were mentioning some things about, the weather starting to change. And like, I guess Rob and I would just kind of go through and start putting sweaters on and stuff and not necessarily be so cognizant about what that might mean if you do have sickle cell. And I wanted to, as we wait for Dr. Yvette Miller to come on board, and when I see her backstage, we can go ahead and bring her on board. But I want to go ahead and let's introduce one of your boots on ground workers there in Phoenix. Mark Morales is, on the ground. He works as a community health worker. And Mark, it's so great to meet you. This is your first time on the 360 SCD Monthly Insights. I think you've been watching along and playing along. In fact, let me just remind you, this is a interactive live broadcast. So if you happen to be watching on YouTube, it's actually at the Force for Health Network YouTube. We've got a channel that we host for the Sickle Cell Foundation, or on Sickle Cell Foundation's Facebook page, or the Force for Health Facebook page, or the Force for Health LinkedIn. The Sickle Cell Foundation actually has a LinkedIn page, but it's a little new, and so we're not able to live stream there. But if anybody's watching on any of those platforms and has a comment or a question, and we vet it out and it actually makes it to the show, then you will be eligible for, some little prize giveaways that we've got from our sponsors. It might be a $10 Subway gift card, or it might be something a little bit more robust up our sleeves. It's always a surprise. But Mark, welcome to the cast. How would you like to go ahead and start off November highlights? What's on your mind right now?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. Yes, those prizes, they come in pretty good. Last time I was interacting too, and I was able to win a gift card, but Moses was like, no, those are for the people watching. You work for us. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. So November highlights right now, I've been able to shadow at Banner Children's Hospital recently in Tucson. And I shadowed my peer who lives in Tucson, Akila, who is also a community health care worker. And I was able to kind of get the environment feeling of what she does, so I can also bring that back to Phoenix. So that was very special. I got to meet the staff, shadow Akila, see the patients also in Tucson. She is doing an amazing job. I've learned so much from her. So a lot of what you see for me is also an extension, I think, of what she's learned in Tucson from Moses. So that's definitely what I'm able to bring back here to Phoenix. How I started I just want a little, I guess, prefix of how I started with the company is through ASU. So Arizona State University reached out to me with my resume. They mentioned, hey, this might be a good fit for you. Are you interested? Read the descriptions. So I did a certificate program that's funded by the state government, and they're able to pay for my my community health worker certificate program. So it's a curriculum based, very extensive. At the end, I was able to apply to the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona, not really knowing all the behind the scenes that they are doing. I know when I interviewed with Moses, it was a tough interview. He's a tough interviewer. But when I got the call back from him that he was offering me this role, that was very fulfilling. And I've been learning since day one. I've gotten to learn so much of what the community does, of how it affects those that have it, how it affects those that have the trait. I've been able to sit down with parents. Moses has really given me the blue sky and say, hey, you have a different world of knowledge, a different background. I'm not used to the healthcare field, but I get to bring these ideas like, hey, can I take them out for coffee? Yes, take them out to Starbucks. Like, hey, is it okay if we do this? Can I visit them already in the hospital? He's like, yes, do it. So he really gives me the free reins on that. And I appreciate that so much because he just doesn't hold me back. I'm able to really bring in my personality, my experience, and really touch the lives that this is affecting. Some other November highlights, kind of a funny story also. in August, we were doing a backpack giveaway by Erica Lassiter, who was your guest last time. So their foundation donated backpacks to us. I set up a spot at Starbucks. We had a prefix of, or excuse me, we had a sign up list of who was going to be able to come pick us up. They came and visited me at Starbucks. While they were visiting at Starbucks, there was just a guest that was there to pick up their coffee. He's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Like, "Oh, I'm with the Sickle Cell Foundation. We are donating backpacks to those in need. These are our clients. They're kids. We got to donate over a dozen backpacks." And he goes, "Oh, well, I'm also, my wife does this big event in November." So this was back in August. This is him telling me about an event in November. He goes, "It's big in the community. It's in Maryvale. Maryvale, it's a tough city here in Phoenix. Lots of resources are needed for Maryvale." So we stayed in contact. And this Saturday, the event that they're holding at his wife's church is called Day of Hope, where over a dozen resources are available to anybody that joins. It's a city, I believe it's a City of Hope church. I would have to get that correct. But Marcus and Joanna, shout out to them if they're watching. They were able to get us a table. So we will have a table there this Saturday to give information to anybody that walks by. We will have some giveaways there too, and just spread the word of the sickle cell awareness. But I thought that's such an incredible story. And to elaborate even more on that, I don't know if Danielle is watching, but Danielle is also a big part of our resources here with the Sickle Cell Foundation. So Danielle also attends the church. So when she found out about this, she reached out to me like, "Hey, Joanna reached out to me that you guys are going to set up a table." What? So getting to know the community has been a big part of what I do. Continuing to learn again, and just those connections, connecting the dots, that has been super fulfilling for me. I got to also meet a family that has just welcomed me with open arms. And it's the McKethan family, excuse me, Cedric, if I'm butchering it. But Cedric and his family, his wife, Mahogany, they've all been so great. He has two twins, or a set of twins, excuse me, that have sickle cell. And we've gotten to invite them to a private movie day with other sickle cell clients that we have. So that was my the first time that I met them was when we hosted a movie day in Peoria, Arizona. And I was also able to visit them recently when both of his sons were in a crisis. And just seeing their eyes light up when I walked into the room, I was not expecting that at all. It's a hospital setting, you know, you never know what you're going to walk into. And Jeremiah, he was like, "Wow, you're here. I can't believe you're here. I'm so happy that you're here." I was like, "What?" Don't quote me on that, Jeremiah, but it was very, very heartfelt. And I spent a few hours there with them, visiting them. The foundation was able to give them a Lego set, some snacks, just to take their minds off of a little bit of the crisis that they were experiencing. And that has been the most fulfilling thing that I think I've done, and that I'm able to do, and that I will continue to do with the foundation. And we have Cedric here. I don't know if we want
I think that that's a perfect segue. You know, it's a perfect example of what the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona actually does, which is work directly with families, whether they're out in the community and you meet somebody, or whether, you know, you're actually referred over to the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona because of newborn blood tests. So, you know, I love that you've invited one of your families that has inspired you so much to the stage. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Cedric McKethan, who is what I've learned to be a disabled veteran from the Army. And I'm going to ask you maybe to unmute your mic now. Perfect. And Cedric, It is wonderful to meet you. I know Mark had, been inspired by you and just interacting with you and your family. So you're representing our Living with Sickle Cell voice on this episode. So it's nice to meet you, and we'd love to hear your story.
Well, thank you. I'm a little teary-eyed as listening to Mark, briefly recap what we experienced last week. So forgive me for that. But I'd like to thank you all for having this platform for us to talk to and be a family and a community together. So my name is Cedric McKeith, and I live in Goodyear, Arizona with my wife, Mahogany. We have 4 children, 2 girls, Zanaya and Aaliyah, and we have twin boys, Jeremiah and Elijah. Jeremiah and Elijah both have sickle cell SS. They've experienced 7 crises each since 2019. So, and all their treatment has been provided through Phoenix Children's Hospital. Is a great hospital. So, when you need care, I'm a little nervous here, but what the foundation has been for us, when you're dealing with sickle cell, it's a multi-system that get attacked. So we never know, like, is it going to be his lungs this time? Is it going to be his kidneys? So it's difficult. So it's challenging when we're trying to treat him in a hospital. So besides having a relationship with our medical providers for the boys, having the foundation is another cushion, another buffer, providing resources or phone calls or just being there with you so you don't feel so alone when you're going through this. My boys felt like Santa Claus came in the room when Mark came to visit them through a crisis. It wasn't much to reach out. I picked up the phone, said, "Hey, this is what's going on. I need some help." And they were there. Like they were there for my family. They're eager to help other members in the community by providing resources and providing events. Sometimes you just need to let your mind, you want to have fun, because going through a sickle cell crisis is a terrible thing to witness. And I can't imagine what it feels like. So I just want to give my kids everything possible when they're feeling well. And numerous times the organization has been able to provide, from partnering with JD Sports to different eateries in the community to the private booking of a show, Wild Robots. That was amazing. I never cried so much in a movie. So that was great. To see the community come together, and pretty amazing what the foundation does for us.
Just doing things as simple as, when I first met Moses and we were talking to Akila, and they said one of the things they like to do is sponsor a movie night, just something as simple as, buying out a movie theater and then just having all the family, because movies can be expensive, man. I mean, it is kind of a luxury to take a family of 4 or 6 to a movie.
Definitely. And especially when you add the concessions.
Oh my God, $20 popcorns. I mean, are you kidding me? And so I'm curious, are you from Tucson? I mean, are you from Arizona?
No, I was born and raised in North Carolina, so military, so I all over the place. But after 12 years of service, I found myself here. So this is home now. So I've been here since 2013.
And how did you come into, so how would you compare kind of the sickle cell support that you had for your family in North Carolina to the sickle cell support here in Arizona? And how did you even find this resource?
Okay. Well, I didn't have a family.
Okay. That was free family.
Yeah. So these are all pretty much we call them after deployment babies. So
but explain to everybody that you have a trait, because a lot of people don't know the difference of having the trait versus the disease.
I have the sickle cell. I have a trait, and my hemoglobin is normally low. My vitamin D is normally low. So I have to take supplements sometimes, and I have required transfusions before. So, to further answer your question, sorry.
And so you moved to Arizona,
yes,
and then you started a family, right?
Yes, yeah. So I knew I met my wife in Hawaii, actually. So I knew that I had the trait, but my wife wasn't she didn't know that her family carried the trait. So it
Oh,
was
okay,
during the
got it.
newborn, yes, ma'am. So it was during the newborn screening that we were informed that, hey, you guys, there's a possibility that your kids can inherit sickle cell, and there's a matrix, and he showed us. So after our first two daughters did not have the trait or sickle cell, it was on the third pregnancy when we had the twins that they both had sickle cell SS.
And we were talking about this at the recent family conference, Moses, right? And actually, we just had a quarterly roundtable, and I learned something that my fearless leader did that I didn't even know that he did. And it was when the state lab, the person that's in charge of the newborn screening of all of the tests, got to report that one of the big wins that Moses was able to help do at the state level was actually to kind of modify that card, the newborn test screening card. So instead of just a box that says sickle cell, now the newborn screening card says, sickle cell trait, sickle cell disease. I mean, it's a big, big deal, right?
Yes,
to be able to tell Moses, are you crying up there? I'm just like that. I'm so proud of you
I think
for doing that, right? Because if you were born more than 50 years ago, you probably did not have anybody telling your parents that you had the trait. Or if you came here from another country other than the US in the last 30 or 40 years, you might not know, right? So that's interesting that your story plays out also, that you
yes,
married somebody that didn't know.
Because like you said, if you didn't know, my grandmother, I have two uncles, an uncle and an aunt who passed from sickle cell, and two uncles and one aunt, and one uncle was at age 3, and at that time he had no diagnosis. He was just was in pain, had a crisis, and passed away. So I'm so thankful that medicine has progressed the way it has, and that we have made these advancements.
And I think that one of the other, main initiatives of the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona is to really support testing and screening. I should say screening, really. If Rob, I have my chief medical officer leaning in here with a comment. Go ahead, Rob.
Cedric, I'm a medical doctor. I'm Caucasian of Italian-American descent. I thought I was on the background, okay? And so when I got to med school, we learned how to draw blood on each other and then how to work the lab tests. And everybody else had a hemoglobin of 13 and 14. I had a hemoglobin of 10. Mm-hmm. And it was until I was a first-year medical student that I discovered that I have a trait for something called beta thalassemia minor, or Cooley's anemia. It's a white Italian version of sickle cell, except the cells don't sickle. You just have low blood. You don't have the sickle crisis. But I'm going to keep going. So we do 23andMe and whatever else. And I find out that the other half of my background is Ashkenazi Jew with a disease called Tay-Sachs disease. So I don't find out that screening until my mother in her 80s admits to her Jewish background. She had kept it as a secret because of fear of Holocaust and neo-Nazis as we lived in Skokie, Illinois, growing up. What I'm getting at, the point of newborn screening as early as possible for someone to know for genetic planning. So now my second daughter, Amy, marries a Jewish guy who's Ashkenazi Jew on both sides and has never been screened for Tay-Sachs, and neither is my daughter. And I was freaking holding my breath during their pregnancies that we weren't going to have some kid born with Tay-Sachs disease that's going to die at age 2 weeks. All right. So having lost 4 pregnancies, my wife and I, with miscarriages from who knows what. The point I'm getting at is you don't necessarily need, whoever's watching this out there in the world, 10% of my background, according to 23andMe, comes from sub-Saharan Africa. and all the black migration routes into southern Italy for some ancestors and others, we're all one big cesspool or soup of genetic material that may be perfect and may not be. We should all get screened. And that's the message that Moses and the partners of the state are making. So I would encourage anyone out there, get screened for sickle cell, as well as the other things your state has to offer. May I ask you a personal question, sir? When did you get screened? Was it in the military, as a child when your uncles had it?
As a child, sir.
Okay. All right. And can I ask, how old are your twins and your daughters?
They're the twins are 10, the girls are 12 and 14, sir.
Okay. And they are the perfect age to start really advising this group over the next decade to keep track of what went wrong and what went right with the system, with the app we have, with the comic book we made, with the foundation, with their experiences. And we're here to try and help them in any way other than just this call. The best information, I'm a northern white guy helping to write the curriculum for this thing, okay? The best information I can get is from people like yourself, your family, and people like Mark and his fellow colleagues. So this is the beginning of a dialogue. I want to say a very open door to you or anyone else out there that looks at how we're trying to help. Is our material helping or not? Is it at the level you need? Do we need to have it at a lower level? Do we need to make it at a more professional level because we're insulting people by how low a level it may be at, et cetera?
I'd like to add about the app. I was in the last crisis. We're in the emergency room.
Yes, sir.
I broke out. He was actually a student, shadowing the nurse that was there, but he has a sickle cell test upcoming next week. He's working on a sickle cell patient. I give him the sickle cell app, have him download it so he can study the course material. He was like, "This is amazing."
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all the comments that you've made.
You got me too, man.
I know.
Yeah, we're all in tears.
Yes.
One
exactly
at a time.
That's exactly. That's what the learn, live, and share it above all of our shoulders is on the side here.
Yes, sir.
Is you learned it, you're applying to your life, and you actually are sharing it, sharing your knowledge, sharing the resource with others, trying to make sure that person knows as much as possible, because you're living it. You're trying to do the best for your child, but also for any other children that person encounters. Man, you made my month. Thank you.
I'm just going to just make one quick comment here because we did share with everybody that Dr. Miller was going to be joining us, and she's been having some she told me yesterday that her computer went kaput, and so we were going to try and work around it, but we're just going to have to reschedule Dr. Miller to next time. Okay, so I just wanted to let everybody know, in case anyone was waiting for Dr. Miller in here, we absolutely have been trying to bring her on, but we're just having some technical difficulties. But you know what? That means, excuse me, that means that we get to expand this conversation with the families living with sickle cell. Well, excuse me, darn it. One of the things that we've been really trying to get a hold of here and really impact is not pain management. That should really be the stigma. Can we just take a moment and I'm curious, how can we help? Do you feel like your family, your kids are affected by any stigma? Is that a thing to you?
So a lot of times what you'll see with these patients is they will think that there is a overlying mental part, that it's not just pain, and maybe they're in a little anxiety that's overlaying. So, they want to, treat and I'm like, I don't think that, the mental, I don't think he's not like this all the time. So for us, it was kind of like you're discrediting it, trying to his pain wasn't as significant. So they kind of whatever. So
From the medical community or
Yeah,
friends
so
or the
no,
school?
from the medical. So a lot of times during a crisis, I think a lot of our you have to deal with the pain team, especially if you go to the ICU. There's another, there's different partners that you have to work with and try and get everybody on the same page. And after you've been through this several times, it's like you start to understand some things that work, and then you wonder why some things create delays in care. It's like, so a lot of times I think with the pain management, a lot of times it gets delayed. It's like, I wish that we could feel what they're going through. Like they have that machine that tells you what a contraction or the bite pressure or something. I wish we could feel what that's like.
Pain is a very hard thing. It's been unable to be quantified, and the attempts at doing it, it's really sad because some of the attempts that are still being used were marketed by the companies that sell the pain medicines. But from the happy face that I'm pain-free to I'm a little uncomfortable to I'm very sad, where you're clicking on the faces, that 1 to 10 scale. I found that I just recently had a surgery that was a major back surgery, and I was on intravenous narcotics and then eventually oral narcotics. And I've rapidly learned that if I said my pain was an 8, a 9, or a 10, I would get the big pill. If I said a 7 or less, I'd get a freaking Tylenol. Okay. Right. And so you rapidly learn how to manipulate your answers. But the medical system is desperate to quantify that, and it's hard. The other issue that's faced is with children, especially the ages of your kids. Kids with pediatric diseases like asthma or diabetes, hit at all races. Those kids are oftentimes babied by their parents and are a little more anxious, or a little more, what's the right word? A little more drama. They're able to manipulate situations better, because if you have that near-death peanut allergy, asthma attack, or diabetes that could happen at age 10, let alone a pain crisis, the kids get good at figuring out how to manage their parents and the healthcare system, but the healthcare system's a little bit lost. We're working on a project with school nursing. Can I ask you a little bit about this? At school, we're building a manual with school nurses, and we sure could use some parental input into that manual if you or others would have an interest. But are your children at school getting any sort of prejudice or stigma or notoriety or anything?
No, sir. We're fortunate.
Students.
We're pretty fortunate that we have a supporting school staff, and from the school nurse to the vice principal to teachers. So, and working with the school teacher from the Phoenix Children's Hospital to make sure that the kids have chronic illness forms, so they for when they miss a lot of days, and then I'm working on having their 504, so that their education can be tailored to them, because you're gonna miss some days of school.
Yeah, how did that get initiated, though? I'm looking at the system here. Did it require an informed, knowledgeable parent to come in and say, my child has this, here's information for you, teacher, here's information for the other kids, here's information for the school nurse? Or was it the other way around, where the hospital gave you that, or the school nurse already had 504s for you?
You have to do the legwork. There's no system. You have to do some legwork. You have to go through, social worker, school teacher, caseworker.
But it was up to the parent to be the lead.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was not initiated. The school may require it, but they don't like. It's on you to provide the information to them.
And when you meet with your teacher, one of the things in my research, at least, when over time, if there's crisis events that happen in the brain, where a child may have actual damage to the brain, or at least pain, and be distracted by pain or by the pain medicine, oftentimes they do get a stigma for being slow or intellectually challenged. Have you encountered anything like that where the teachers have treated them differently, or are aware that that could even be a problem?
I know that So a lot of times the kids have a hard time readjusting to school once they've been out. So there may be behavioral, where he has to get back used to being told what to do and not being the center of attention.
Mm-hmm.
So more just for like behavioral, maybe for my personal situations, we've had to adjust sometimes.
I follow. I'm going to shift gears just a little bit, if I don't mind, Lucy, because this is useful information for me. And I guess I'm speaking on behalf of all the ignorant healthcare workers out there behind me that don't have enough guts to get on camera and ask. You have sickle cell trait. You're a military veteran.
Yes,
sir. Can you tell me, as someone with trait, how did that affect your physical fitness testing? Because part of what we do in our reality health games is literally have available people test themselves. Are you as fit as you should be for the Army or the Navy? Did it affect you?
Yes,
was this a secret?
Definitely.
How did it affect your ranking, your PT, and all of that?
Well, I mean, PT is a daily thing, and being in the field artillery and the infantry, you're going to do a lot of PT, especially with the op tempo that we faced between the 2001 to 2012 with the OIF and OEFs. Physical fitness was at the front of training. Having hemoglobin 10s and 9s versus where the soldier to the left of me may be 17, and so I'm at a disadvantage. And especially when you're in a leadership position, you have to lead from the front, so you keep pushing yourself. And the Army has this thing of you don't quit, you don't give up. So as you're running, you're about to pass out, somebody's telling you keep going. And sadly, that system has resulted in fatalities from physical training. I was told during testing by my that I should not take supplements. They said I didn't need it. It was certain supplements that they suggested I did not take. So while the rest of my peers were bulking up and hitting the gym, I was just unable to train like they were, based upon the recommendations from my PA.
Thank you. Part of this questioning is completely apropos to the intention of this app, right? I mean, we're trying to talk to 3 different groups all at the same time. I mean, Moses just wants to put his big arm around the entire ecosystem. We always call it the ecosystem. Those living with sickle cell, and of course the families, right? Yes. The medical community, so that they are given the respect of the level of pain when they're saying that they're in a pain crisis, and they kind of know that this could be an option to consider. And then also the general community. I'm considered the general community, right? Mm-hmm. And I think part of eradicating stigma is being able to educate everybody. So for example, as a part of the general community, and even as immersed as I've been in the sickle cell disease in the last year and a half, it surprises me that you could have sickle cell and perhaps still be eligible to serve, or like, or the trait. Okay, so maybe there's the difference. For example, my husband does the Arizona football announcements, and his last guest was the performance coach of all of the athletes. And he mentioned a couple of his kids, had sickle cell and maybe the trait. So I guess, this is just dialogue and conversation to have so that we can be more literate about what things people can and can't do if you say that you have sickle cell disease, trait, etc.
I think it goes back to like when Dr. Rob says, when you want to work out, I have limitations. So I know I can't go out there and go crazy, because I'm probably going to set myself back. So I'll probably be too sore to continue the next day. And now my recovery period has been extended. So I just think, a little moderation, I have to watch my son's behavior and how his body works. So I'm not easily manipulated by him when he's like, hey, my pain's at a 10, but he's jumping around. Okay. So like by knowing him, I could kind of gauge. I can't feel what he feels, but I know what he looks like when he's normal. So
You know, they may be. Yeah, I'm fascinated by they're identical twins, aren't they?
they are, sir,
And so they hang out together a lot,
unseparable. Like,
unseparated. So if one has a crisis, does the other one often get a crisis?
they tend to go into crisis following each other, and if it wasn't for like
Exactly.
the blood work,
Don't know. What's exciting to me is the canary in the coal mine. Are you familiar with that analogy? In the old days, you used to have a canary down in the coal mine. I'm in Pennsylvania. If the canary passed out or looked like it was going to die, all the miners said, let's get the heck out of here because the
yes.
air was getting bad. The canary would go down. If one of the twins is very active and is starting to have pain, that's a sign to the other one, slow down. If one of them is in a situation with it where it's cold and they're underdressed, they're starting to get pain, that's an immediate sign for the other one to get a jacket on or get warm, or oxygen level if they're at high altitude. So it's to have the twins together with the identical genetics. There's an opportunity there for them to help each other a lot if they're inseparable, to kind of cool each other down, slow it down, tell the gym teacher, hey, wait a minute, this is killing me. Don't make my brother climb the rope too. You know, that kind of thing.
Because history has shown us that it's normally like within a week or two.
Interesting.
So when we use the tracker, by tracking it, we are able to see the pattern. And that's another good thing about our app. It has multiple trackers for pain, mood, and things that you can use.
I mean, I was using it for my migraines. I mean, just because, I mean, when you track something about your health, you're investing in your health so that you can share it with your physician or somebody else, right? Moses, I see you up there kind of quiet, and I know that you're just probably just watching like a proud papa, you know. How do you react to just, you know, hearing one of your, you know, families be able to share? We've been very heavy on the physicians and the experts on this show, and it's just wonderful to, you know, kind of take a deeper dive with a family member, you know, who has twins. I mean, I'm a twin, but I'm a fraternal, but two twins with the disease and then a 12, 14-year-old. I want to hear from you, leader.
Wow, I'm so humbled. Sometimes it's good to just be quiet and listen. And so I'm thankful to Cedric and his family. Sickle cell is a terrible disease. There's no doubt about that. Its manifestations, I don't know what else you can compare to, because it's in the blood. And wherever the blood goes, there goes sickle cell. And so I'm thankful. First of all, I'm thankful to the state and the federal government for the newborn screening program. That's an incredible program. That's an incredible project. So that when a baby is born, it tests the blood, not just for sickle cell, but all kinds of genetic diseases. So that gives individual to know what his status is. That's the reason we encourage people who don't know what their status is to find out and get tested. The more you know, the better you understand. We live in an information society. And when it comes to health, you can't trade it for anything while we are on this side of life. So it's wonderful to hear from a parent, because sometimes when things happen to people, you just, you know, the word public don't have identity. You can't see somebody and say that's public. So when people hear about sickle cell, they just, like anything, it just goes in one ear and gets out in the other. Or when you talk about pain, There's no scale. You can't look at somebody's forehead and say, well, this pen is 10 degrees, or his pen is 90 degrees, or the pen is, you can tell. And the individual, all the severity of the pen is what they know. And along that reasoning comes the thought of living with this condition day in and day out. So the challenge is, and it's been bothering, that's part of the desire and the effort and dedication about this app, trying to put something out there rather than just talking, that in some small way can make a difference.
Well, and I think that, we keep saying app. I'm getting old, and so if I don't have to look at a phone, I am grateful. So, I mean, just FYI that the 360 SCD Hub is both an app and a full-blown website, so you could be in front of a large screen. In fact, I wanted to share a couple things, but and I know, Rob, you wanted to say something, but we're coming into our last 10 minutes. And Moses, you were talking to me earlier, 'tis the season. This is November highlights, right? And so we were talking about something as simple as weather, right? Let's talk about weather. I know that we're not 20 degrees like Pennsylvania, okay? And when it gets to 63, we start putting on our sweaters, right? Us Arizonans. But,
Sure.
Moses, so go ahead. I wanted to kind of like spend the last part of the show talking about the season of where we are and, what might be top of mind for those.
What the point I wanted to make, though, here is, especially with Mark on this call, is, Lucy, you talked about the app, and I'm looking at this big computer screen right now. And the ability, Mark's not an expert. He's a community health worker. I'm not an expert. Moses is an expert. Maybe Dr. Shaw is an expert, okay? But he didn't have the time to reach 1 million people. But someone trusts that community health worker like Mark, and he can sit down at the computer and bring everything up and be the instructor without being the expert, because the experts have reviewed everything that's in there. And that's the beauty of what you were just saying, Lucy. It's not an app, it's a web page, 360scdhub.org, and you're on a full screen, or you're on the big TV if you broadcast it, and you can be sharing this information as the teacher. The community health worker is that trusted person in the community that can knock on a door and say, hey, let me teach you this. And oh, by the way, do you have a coat? When it gets cold, we don't want you to get cold because it makes you more risk for crisis. So Mark, I mean, are you in a role here where you can be the health educator and, like, as the weather gets warmer, bring up the comic book or bring up the 360 anatomy? You're on mute. Talk to us, Mark, because we on camera, I haven't said it, but the community health worker, I think, is that person when they knock on the door, people do smile. It's someone they trust. And if they don't know it, they can find out. Does this work for you, Mark?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I go on there almost every day. I take a module. There's hundreds of modules on there. That gives me the chance to do it at least once a day, because I'm still learning. Just like you mentioned, the weather this morning. I don't know. Maybe, I know Akila. She couldn't. I'm not sure if she's here with us. She had a crisis, and she mentioned, "Hey, I have a crisis, and it's due to the weather." So that, in my mind, already is like, okay, we have our other clients that are also here in Arizona. The weather's changing. It's getting cooler. So what can we help them with? Just that reminder of a cooler jacket, of a warm jacket. That might be something that I can post on the app. Like, hey, reminder to wear your jacket. Reminder to maybe just carry your jacket, because during lunchtime, it reaches the 80, 90 degrees again still. But yeah, that app, we can use it anyway. We can incorporate it into our day-to-days. That's such a good catch too, to be able to set up those little reminders, because yeah, I'm not an expert. I'm still learning.
Rob, do you want to
I
go ahead
wanted
and
to.
take the medical explanation of why weather affects sickle cell?
Well, I tell you, I'm not driving right now, but the bottom line is those cells are nice and round and slippery. And when it gets colder, the blood vessels constrict, the blood doesn't move as quickly, and the blood vessels get narrower. So the combination of a narrowed blood vessel near the surface, because the blood's trying to maintain it, and the cell sickling, the sickling causes clots to happen. So the combination of the blood cells clogging up the vessel and the vessel getting smaller, trying to conserve heat, makes you more likely to get a crisis at places that are colder, like fingers and toes and legs and noses and ears. So it's not just a coat, it's those warm, dry gloves, mittens, shoes, and hats.
Do you want to
And
speak? Do you want to speak to hydration as well?
hydration helps. When you're dehydrated, your blood vessels have to constrict a little to keep the same blood pressure. So the more fluid you have there, the more heat is transmitted to all the tissue. So that's where hydration is so important. But it also helps at the level of the kidneys to prevent a clot from a crisis from affecting kidneys.
The
Warmth,
illustration that
hydration. Go ahead, Lucy.
I was just going to say, the illustration that I brought up just now, for me personally, was the thing that really just put it in light as to what a pain crisis is and why it is a full system thing. Maybe next month, Moses, we should really talk about, your medical home for living with sickle cell, because it really is a team of experts that you should have around yourself, because sickle cell can have a pain crisis can happen anywhere in your body, because it is a blood related issue. Again, I'm not a medical.
The plumbing goes, when the plumbing gets blocked, it
Right.
doesn't
That's
work.
exactly right. That's
So
exactly
it's the
right.
upstairs bathroom, it's the toilet in the basement, it's the kitchen sink, it's the dishwasher, it's the washing machine, any one of which can clog and you have an expensive repair bill. It's the same thing with sickle cell. It's a plumbing issue everywhere the blood goes. Look behind Moses, is the background right now. Everywhere the blood goes.
That's right.
Downstream from a heart attack and a stroke is the most serious. But it's not just a pain crisis, Lucy. It's a life-threatening crisis.
Yeah.
It's pain is just the nerve is like suffering, but the tissue around it is also dying if it doesn't get enough oxygen and can do permanent damage. You're doing such important work at that foundation, Moses, and I appreciate the guests educating me today. Thank you.
So we talked about weather. We talked about hydration. I think the holidays also can be onset for stress. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about why it's so important to maintain balance and maybe avoid stress?
Well, I'm going to give you a visible on that one. You get stressed out, you get adrenaline, right? What does adrenaline do? It narrows all your blood vessels and raises your blood pressure. It narrows the blood vessels. So now when you storm out of that Thanksgiving dinner because you had an argument about who the latest appointee is for this office or whatever, and you go outside, and God forbid you have a smoke. Now you've got narrow blood vessels from the stress, going out in the cold without the jacket, you smoke, and the nicotine's going to make it even tighter. And then you wonder why you got a crisis where your finger, your thumb, your toes went bad.
Yeah.
All right. Gotta just try and reduce that stress if you can.
So last couple minutes, what we always like to do is just go around the circle here with key takeaways or final thoughts. And Cedric, thank you so much for opening up your personal story and sharing it with us. And so I'd like to go ahead and start with you. What's your key takeaway today, or what would you like everybody to, have top of mind right now who's listening?
I just feel I have so much more I want to give. It was so much, and this is so like everything we talked about. I want to be better at providing better care for not just my sons, but for anybody else in the community with sickle cell. I want to educate more. So I can't just pick one thing. I have a lot of work that I'm getting ready to do, along with beside my partners and friends. So thank you.
I love that. And I'm going to lean on Mark to make him a super coach, right? He's a share it. He wants to share it. That's what I just heard from him, right? So I love that. Mark, what's your kind of key takeaway or final thoughts for November highlights?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's November. We have had an influx already of, those in need of resources. So just being open to assist them, support them in any way that we possibly can, connecting them with resources if we're not able to do something. Hey, we know this resource, just connecting the dots with anybody that we can. That's definitely what I'm going to take into play this November.
Wonderful. And let's go to Rob.
My Christmas wish for all kids out there is that they have parents like the McKeithen twins have, all right, that are knowledgeable and informed, and a community health worker that supports the family, in a foundation like you have in Tucson there that supports the whole infrastructure and ecosystem. Learn it, live it, share it, and you're the perfect example of what it's all about. So that's my takeaways. I got to find ways to support what you all are doing, because you can scale this. That's the beauty of it.
I'm going to keep Moses for last. So one thing that I just want to share with everybody here is that coming up on the 29th, November 29th, the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona holds a monthly support and empowerment meeting. So, of course, you don't have to be in the app to participate, but I'll tell you what, if you download the app for free and just connect into community, it is a wonderful thing, because you'll just always know what's going on. And I think that another announcement that I just wanted to make, and this actually came in through our Force for Health network feed on my feed this morning. I said, okay, wonderful. I'm going to copy it on over and add it to the Sickle Cell Foundation, is that CMS did just release a brand new disease provider toolkit. And so we have gone ahead, and if you are part of the medical community and want to stay on top of things, we've gone ahead and added it back to your virtual resource library up here, and you will find it back here. So I just wanted to kind of bring those things into light. And my takeaways are for everybody this season, everybody. Every single day that you can breathe and move is a gift. You'll notice our tag is protect the gift. And so let's just, the stress, the combative fighting, the post-election talk, as you lean in towards your family and friends, just let people have other opinions. It's okay. It's okay if people don't think like you specifically. Everybody is a sum of their experiences, and they're going to come to every single moment with that, aggregate experience to have an opinion, and that's okay. So that's my takeaway. As we all lean in towards Thanksgiving next week, I really hope that we all stay stress-free. How's that? Moses, you have the final word, buddy.
Wow, thank you, everyone. Just have to comment that already Cedric signed up to be a coach, went through the first coach training, so that's exciting.
Awesome.
And we are fortunate to have Mark in Phoenix, very dedicated, very passionate. We're excited. There's so much. I'm excited and encouraged where we are on this journey. We're making incremental progress. Every day is an opportunity to do better than yesterday. So for all the effort that the team puts into this work, it's really not work, it's a life that we live. For me, it's a life, it's not work. And so I hope and I pray for sickle cell warriors to have a mind of anticipation. You know, there is this flyer that says the pain is loud, but the damage is silent. So every time you hear that pain, something else that happened before you, that pain shows up. So anticipation to the best that you can use to protect yourself. If the pain occurs, you know it's going to, if the condition like the weather, you know what to do. So I wish all of us the best of the year. Take care of each other and take care of yourselves, and all the best.
Wonderful. So from everybody from the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona and the Force for Health Network, have a wonderful Thanksgiving next week. Embrace friends and family, and always remember to protect the gift. Okay. Take care, everybody, and we will see you next. We'll see you next month in December. Take care.
Bye.